Hello everyone, and on this lesson we are going to continue to study our modeling toolkit. And as a primitive I will take a cube and I will add couple of V divisions. I will use a smooth command and we will go over extrude, bevel, bridge commands right now. And first of all I will go to face mode and I want to show you how you can delete components. Of course you can just select them and click delete button, hit delete button, and they will be deleted. But in case of the edges we have a bit of a complication. If I will select the edge loop with a double click and if I will press delete, it looks like our edge is deleted, but if we will switch to vertex components, you can see vertices are still here on our object. And that's usually not what we want from this command. We usually want vertices to be deleted. And generally, if you is working with the subdivisions or you is planning to work with the subdivisions, you need to try to avoid n-gons, like in this object. So what we can do to delete this edge completely with the vertices is to click Ctrl and delete. And you can see curvature of our object is changed right now and our components was deleted. And let's move on to our components in the modeling toolkit and let's check the extrusion command. First of all, we can access it in modeling toolkit, secondly in edit mesh menu. And here you can see it have a shortcut, Ctrl E. So we can select the polygon, click Ctrl E, and we are getting a floating menu and a gizmo. With the gizmo, of course, we can freely manipulate this new part. We can scale, move, and rotate it. Easy as that. But that's actually not how I use it usually. And usually I'm working through the menu, through the floating menu. So I will undo everything with Ctrl Z and press it again, Ctrl E. And here in the floating menu we have some parameters. First of all is thickness, and as usually with the middle mouse button pressed, I can drag it to the left and to the right, and we will have control over the thickness. And it will work usually too fast, so we will need to press Ctrl or Ctrl Shift to slow down the manipulation. And here we can adjust thickness like that, or we can just use integers. We can also see we have a local translate Z option. Right now it is the same as a thickness, but usually it have a slightly different effect, and I tried to show to you this effect on this object, but it actually will look the same, thickness and local translate Z, so we will check the difference on the different object. And let's move on to a different parameters, we also have offset. As you can see, and offset is really oftenly used parameter, and it allows us to scale at the tip of the extrusion. And sometimes these parameters are being used without an actual extrusion. So I will select a polygon, click Ctrl E, and I will just increase offset a little bit. So as you can see, we are getting a polygon inside of a polygon. And that's a classical way to create some components, some structure in our object, and we are getting this rectangular boundary, which we can use too. And after we extruded something or offsetted something, we can hit Q or Enter to confirm our extrusion, and we can later move with move, rotate, or scale tool. So let's move on to next parameter, that's divisions. And here, as I said, you need to use Control and Control Shift to slow down the manipulation. And divisions is pretty easy. You can create as many divisions as you want across of our extrusion. And you can use these divisions to add some details into your model. For example, it can be a grip on a knife or basically anything. And the last option we have here is keep faces together, and by default it's set on and faces will be extruded together, but of course we can change it to off, and each face will be extruded separately. It definitely can be used too to create some interesting shapes. So the extrude command is really most common command to use in the 3D modeling, I think. And let's move on to our next command. And I will create a cube for this one. And let's move to the bevel. And bevel will also help us to add a structure to our models. So if we will select one edge, we can access bevel from modeling toolkit and from edit mesh menu. And we also have a shortcut, Ctrl B. So if I will click this Ctrl B, you see we are getting this kind of a element. And first parameter is a fraction, that's basically a scale of our bevel, the size of a bevel. And right now we have only one segment, that means we're getting one additional segment. And we can increase the segments, and this way we will get a smooth transition between the surfaces. And we also have a depth parameter, so we can get a concave or convex surface. If the depth is on 0, we are just getting some additional elements. And we can also select several edges to create connected bevels like these. And we can increase the segments. And the miltering I will not be able to show to you right now, so we will see it later. And we also have a chamfer parameter. So if it's used, we are getting only additional components, but the form itself and the shape itself is not changing. So we need, usually the chamfer is, we set it on, and the purpose of a bevel is really simple. Firstly, sometimes we will need to just add some components, and secondly, when we are working in our 3D view, you can see the angles are really sharp, and if you will look around your room, you will see that the edges of the objects are usually having a bit of that bevel, and that allow light to bounce off these edges, and this will create a more natural highlight. So this will help to see our objects as realistic objects. One more interesting purpose of a bevel is to split the edge into two edges. So I will just use multicut right now. We don't know this tool yet. And I will select this new edge, and I can bevel this edge to get the structure I need. So Control B, and we can adjust the fraction, and as you can see, I'm just getting one more edge on the same distance from another one. We will use it a lot too, and of course we can set up a lot of the elements with this command. For example, we can build something like an oven really fast. And I hope everything was clear, so let's move on to the next commands. And I will create a cube, and I will duplicate it, and I will combine them into one mesh. And sometimes we will need to connect topologically the elements, and I will select these opposite faces, and I will use extrusion, so Control E, and let's make a little offset, and I will delete these new faces. So we are basically getting two holes, and with a bridge tool we will be able to connect these holes like that. So for this particular command, it's important to have the same amount of the edges on the different sides. And here we have some options like twist or taper too, or we can add the divisions, or we can switch a direction, but that's not so oftenly used, so we will just move on. Sometimes you will definitely need to move a bridge offset a little bit. This will just rotate one of the holes, basically, and it just gives you a bit more control over the bridge. Pretty easy. So one more usage of this command is just to close the holes you have in the mesh. So we will just need to select all of the border edges and click bridge, and this way you will have your face filled again. And we have one more command right here. It's add divisions, and with this command you can manually add subdivision to polygons. Works basically the same as a smooth, but for the components. So we just click on it, and here we have our polygons divided 1 or 2 or 3 times, as many as you want. And of course, these new components we can use to our advantages. For example, I can take these vertices and extrude them. And in Maya, vertices are extruding like you see on the screen, so we are getting kind of a spikes. And of course, you can have divisions and you can adjust height and length. And see you on the next video where we will see the rest of the modeling tool.